Professor Krix-Vahn had planned this moment for 3 solar cycles. Standing before his advanced xenobiology class, his 4 eyes gleamed with what he believed was intimidating authority. Behind him, secured in a reinforced containment unit, lurked his prized specimen, a shadow ripper from the death world called Nyx Prime. Today, Krix-Vahn announced, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction, you will witness why humans are classified as Class 7 Deathworlders. This creature here has eliminated entire Colonial Guard squadrons. The mixed class of Zelani, Korth, and Hebridean students shifted nervously in their biopods. All except one. Maya Torres sat in the front row, seemingly more interested in her data pad than the professor's theatrical display. Miss Torres, Krix-Vahn's voice dripped with condescension. Perhaps you'd care to enlighten us about your species' supposed pack bonding abilities? Maya looked up, brown eyes sparkling with barely contained amusement. Oh, you mean how we accidentally domesticate everything? Sure, Professor. Though I have to say, bringing a shadow ripper to class seems a bit excessive. The other students gasped. Nobody spoke to Professor Krix-Vahn that way. The cantankerous academic had been known to fail students for lesser infractions. Excessive? Krix-Vahn's secondary arms twitched with indignation. Young lady, this apex predator represents everything dangerous about your homeworld. It knows only violence, only hunger, only fear, Maya interrupted quietly, standing up. Professor, with respect, that thing is terrified. A collective intake of breath swept through the classroom. Several students began recording on their neural implants, sensing this was about to become legendary gossip. Krix-Vahn's laugh was harsh, like grinding metal. Terrified? This creature has never known fear. It's a perfect killing machine, bred for dying alone in a box, Maya said, walking toward the containment unit. Look at its posture. Ears back, tail tucked, shallow breathing. Classic stress indicators. Stay back. Krix-Vahn scuttled between Maya and the container. This is not some domesticated pet. This is raw, untamed death. Maya raised an eyebrow. Professor, how long has it been in there? 6 months, he admitted reluctantly. 6 months in a box barely large enough to turn around? No wonder it's aggressive. I'd be pretty cranky too. Maya's voice carried that particular human tone that somehow managed to be respectful while simultaneously making everyone else feel like an idiot. The containment is necessary for torturing an intelligent creature, apparently. Maya crossed her arms. Professor, I hate to break it to you, but this isn't intimidating. It's just sad. The Shadow Ripper, as if sensing the conversation, let out a low, mournful sound that made several students clutch their desks. You see? Krix-Vahn gestured dramatically. Pure menace. That's not menace, Maya sighed. That's whimpering. Silence fell over the classroom like a heavy blanket. Even the ventilation system seemed to pause, as if the entire university held its breath. Professor Krix-Vahn's 4 eyes narrowed to dangerous slits. Very well, Miss Torres. Since you seem so confident in your assessment, perhaps you'd care to prove your point? Gladly. Maya stepped forward without hesitation. The other students exchanged panicked glances. Several began frantically messaging their dorm mates, certain they were about to witness the first classroom fatality in university history. Krix-Vahn's manipulator appendages danced over the containment controls. Let's see how your precious pack bonding works against 6 feet of claws and teeth. The containment field shimmered and died. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The Shadow Ripper remained motionless, as if unsure whether this was another cruel trick. Then it moved. The creature unfolded from its cramped prison like liquid nightmare. Midnight black fur rippled over corded muscle. 6 legs carried it with predatory grace, while a tail thick as a human torso lashed behind it. Its head, somewhere between wolf and dragon, swiveled toward the classroom on a serpentine neck. Every non-human in the room activated their personal shields or began backing toward the exits. Mia simply sat down on the floor. Hey there, gorgeous, she said softly. Having a rough day? The Shadow Ripper's massive head tilted, confusion replacing hunger in its multifaceted eyes. This wasn't the behavior it expected from prey. I know, Maya continued conversationally. Stuck in a box for months, probably fed nutrition paste, no exercise, no stimulation. That's got to suck. One of the creature's 6 legs took a tentative step forward. Professor Krix-Vahn's mandibles hung open. Impossible. It should have attacked by now. The species profile clearly states that they're pack hunters, Maya finished. Social creatures. Highly intelligent. Probably equivalent to Earth dolphins in terms of emotional complexity. She looked directly at the professor. How exactly did you think isolating a social being for 6 months would end? The Shadow Ripper took another step, then another. Its massive form seemed to shrink as it approached, shoulders lowering, head dipping in what could only be described as submission. "This is wrong," Krix-Vahn muttered. "The data, the behavioral studies, everything indicates maximum aggression toward threats," Maya agreed. "But I'm not threatening it, am I?" She slowly extended one hand, palm up. "I'm just sitting here, being calm, letting it decide what it wants to do." The creature's nose, each nostril the size of a coffee cup, approached her hand with delicate care. The first contact was barely a whisper of breath against her palm. The Shadow Ripper's massive head lowered until its snout rested gently against Maya's palm. A sound emerged from deep within its chest, not the rumbling growl of a predator, but something softer. Something almost like purring? "Well, I'll be damned," whispered Jace Patel, a Hebridean student in the back row. "It's actually purring." Professor Krix-Vahn's 4 eyes bulged so far from their sockets that several students worried they might pop out entirely. "That is categorically impossible. Shadow Rippers do not purr. They do not show affection." "They certainly do not." His protests died as the creature, all 600 pounds of apex predator, carefully lowered itself to the floor and rested its enormous head in Maya's lap. "Oh, you poor baby," Maya murmured, gently scratching behind what she assumed were ears. The purring intensified. 6 months in that awful box. No wonder you're touch-starved. The classroom had gone from tense to surreal in the span of 30 seconds. Students were now openly recording, some laughing in disbelief, others simply staring with their mouths agape. "This violates everything we know about the species." Krix-Vahn sputtered, frantically consulting his datapad. Every study, every behavioral analysis, every study conducted by people who kept them in cages, Maya pointed out, never stopping her gentle ministrations. The Shadow Ripper had closed all 6 of its eyes and was making soft, contented sounds. Did anyone ever think to just ask them what they wanted? A Quartz student named Vex raised one of his tentacles hesitantly. "Professor, didn't the Colonial Archives mention that Shadow Rippers were originally domesticated by early human settlers?" Krix-Vahn's mandibles clicked frantically. Those records were deemed unreliable. Unreliable or inconvenient? Maya's voice carried that dangerous edge humans got when they suspected bureaucratic nonsense. "Let me guess, accepting that Shadow Rippers could be domesticated would have interfered with the military's plans to weaponize them?" The professor's silence spoke volumes. "Thought so." Maya continued her scratching, and the creature's tail began wagging. Actual wagging. Like the galaxy's most terrifying dog. "You know what the real kicker is? This sweetie probably thinks I'm its new pack leader." As if to prove her point, the Shadow Ripper shifted position, curling around Maya like a massive, deadly cat. Its purring grew louder, vibrating through the floor. "Sweet merciful void," breathed Nina Zhao, a Zalani exchange student. "It's bonded to her." "Bonded?" Krix-Vahn's voice cracked. "In 30 seconds? That's biologically impossible." "For most species, maybe," Maya agreed, "but humans have this weird trick. We see a scared, lonely creature, and instead of thinking dangerous predator, we think needs hugs." The Shadow Ripper, as if understanding, nuzzled deeper into Maya's lap and let out what could only be described as a sigh of contentment. "This is a disaster," Krix-Vahn muttered. "I spent a fortune acquiring this specimen. The intimidation factor alone was supposed to last the entire semester." "Professor," Maya said gently, "maybe the lesson here isn't about how dangerous humans are. Maybe it's about how we refuse to see any creature as irredeemably evil." She looked around the classroom, meeting the eyes of each student. "You want to know what makes humans different? It's not that we're tougher or more violent. It's that we see a monster, and we ask ourselves, what made it that way? What does it need? How can we help?" The Shadow Ripper's purring had reached a volume that made the windows vibrate. Several students were openly weeping at the sight of the formerly terrifying predator cuddled like an oversized house cat. But the behavioral studies, Krix-Vahn tried weakly, were conducted by idiots who thought isolation and cruelty were acceptable research methods, Maya finished. This gorgeous creature wasn't aggressive because it was naturally violent. It was aggressive because it was scared, lonely, and desperate. She looked directly at the professor. "Sound familiar?" Krix-Vahn's mandibles stopped clicking. For the first time since Maya had known him, the arrogant professor looked genuinely thoughtful. I may have made an error in judgment," he admitted quietly. "Just one?" Maya's grin was pure mischief. "Professor, I hate to break it to you, but your terrifying killer is probably going to follow me home now. Shadow Rippers mate for life, and that includes pack bonds." As if summoned by her words, the creature lifted its massive head and gazed at Maya with obvious adoration. Its tail wagged harder. "Oh no," Krix-Vahn whispered. "The university will never approve keeping a emotional support animal?" Maya suggested innocently. I'm sure the Diversity and Inclusion Committee would be very interested to hear how you've been psychologically torturing an intelligent being for educational purposes. The color drained from Krix-Vahn's exoskeleton. Besides, Maya added, standing up carefully as her new companion adjusted its position to stay close, look around. Does this look like intimidation to you? The classroom had transformed. Students were cautiously approaching, asking if they could pet the creature. The Shadow Ripper, still pressed against Maya's side, was graciously accepting attention from anyone who approached calmly. I think, Maya said, watching a Korth student giggle as the massive creature gently licked their tentacle, your lesson plan just got a major revision. Professor Krix-Vahn looked at his data pad, then at the scene before him, then back at his pad. With a gesture that somehow managed to convey both defeat and enlightenment, he deleted his entire semester curriculum. Class dismissed, he announced. I have some serious research to conduct. As students filed out, chattering excitedly about their encounter, Maya remained behind with her new friend. The Shadow Ripper had curled up at her feet, 6 legs tucked neatly beneath its body, looking for all the world like it had finally found home. You know, she told it quietly, I think you and I are going to get along just fine. The creature's purr was her answer.